Oh, the music's over, but the music's never over. Welcome to the Rawle Gene Show. We are lifting the roof. Woot woot. This is this is our episode 14, and today we're going to be talking about the art of rest because it's important and it's a big piece of the cycle that many I know that Rawl and I in the past have neglected rest. We've even talked about that on this show. Yes,
No,
I'm pointing to you, my friend.
no.
But as always, Rawl, oh wait, we've already got a comment. I'm going to suspect our good friend Neil is watching. He is. Happy Friday, Neil. You're a good man. Thank you for always being
Live
part of
from
the show.
Las Vegas, it's the
It's
Neil Show.
it's Doctor Data. He's coming
Dr.
straight
Data.
on in.
It's Dr. Data.
Neil, we always appreciate that you're on the show, and we hope that this is your moment to do some resting as well. Kick back and enjoy.
Well, Neil will paint us a picture that may hopefully scalp some thoughts around rest.
Oh, look at you waxing poetically.
Ooh, paint, scalp. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. I'm
Brother,
wrong.
how are you, my friend?
Besides being overly silly, I'm good. I'm good.
I love being overly silly. I like when what we bring to that show.
Well, it's all a scam, so put on a put on the lipstick on the pig and
And here we
pretend
go.
pretend life is good, and no, things are good. I was saying earlier, it's just it's been a kind of a uneventful week in a
Mm.
sense of we always ask her, how you doing. Well, every day is basically the same, but some days you obviously have highs and lows or whatever, and then some days things just so this week has been a
Yeah,
not just
it's just a nice constant.
yeah,
Can go along.
exactly. So
Some days, some weeks, those are really needed.
well, it's about balance, and kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today, the art of
The
rest.
art of rest.
You know, you know, people go, well, I know how important rest is. Well, do you really? Do you really understand it? I don't even know if I understand it, but I do know, everything in balance, and you can't be going 100% guns ho. Although I worked in an environment like that back in the day, where
And how'd that turn
every
out?
project that came down the pipeline was priority one. So, so it made for a very stressful environment because
Yes.
it never felt. And I was fortunate because I was the recruiter slash kind of HR life coach for the IT group, and so I was affected, but not the same way as if I was actually an employee working in that environment all the time.
Right.
I was the support mechanism for the managers and the groups, but it just made for a very stressful environment because you feel like there was never any downtime for anything.
No.
So, yeah, so it's interesting. I think most people understand the value of rest, but do they really understand it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's like we could all say, yes, rest is super important. And at least I remember coming from the generation of going, I'll rest when I'm dead. Like,
Yeah.
what a horrible like metaphor
I used
and
to say that too. Yeah,
statement we I used to
I
say
know.
that too.
I used
It's
to
like
say that too.
I look back on that going, young man, no, be like as soon as those words come out, you know that you're covering up for something. You're
Mhm.
covering up for a deficit of rest, probably of a deficit of taking care of yourself in many other aspects of your
Yeah,
life. Going,
yeah,
I am here just purely to produce. Be like, no, you're gonna burn out hard, like super
yeah.
hard. You're gonna be the dude. Well, I was the dude that was like working at one point. I think we were working like 14, 15-hour days for like, we thought it was going to be a 3 week sprint. It ended up being like 3 months. And it almost like destroyed our entire production floor.
Yeah. It'll
Like,
burn you out.
oh,
But
like,
it also
hmm,
depends on, because that's interesting you say that, because a phrase like that, I'll rest when I'm dead. That's something I said when I was younger.
mm-hmm,
That's something I said when I really didn't understand. So it's not that it's right or wrong. It's also depending on what stage in your life you're at, what stage you're at spiritually, what stage you're at mentally, emotionally, physically. But also what stage you are within your career and financially, because if you're building and you're grinding and you're trying to build your nest so you can provide and live life the way you want, then for some people they kind of put those things not to the side, they just don't look at it from a value standpoint the same way that we would now, because we're older now. We've learned from those things. So it's interesting the way you said it, because I don't want it to seem like it's a wrong thing. It's like going through those experiences is how you obtain the insight and the wisdom to go, I need to look at this differently.
Yeah.
Right. And I think sometimes time has a lot to do with that, because the older you get, the more you realize the more rest you need. When you're younger, I was younger, geez, I could stay up all night, party all night, maybe get 2 hours of sleep and get up and go to work. And
it was a different world back then.
It was different, yeah. And we were different because we were younger, and piss and vinegar and all that stuff. So, but, regardless, it is important to rest. I mean,
let's kick into this. How do you bring rest into your life now?
I mean, outside of nightly sleep, I try to, I wouldn't say I nap every day, but I definitely nap a lot more. Mm-hmm. And when I say nap, short naps, but, I try to nap more. Rest for me also is not just shutting down. Rest is just being still, right? Part of that is being still. So, again, I make a lot of time to just be still, to not be doing anything but just being. And being still doesn't mean part of me being still is I like watching videos that move my emotions, that make me cry, make me want to cry. So to me, that's part of rest as well. That's part of that regeneration, because that's what rest is for, is to regenerate. We sleep every night to allow our brains, number one, to process the information we've gathered from the day's experiences and so forth, and put it in its right categories, and to get rid of what doesn't serve us, and to facilitate dreams and the REM state and all that stuff.
That's interesting hearing that. It's like what I hear from you though, Rawle, is like there's kind of, you've got these different areas. You've got body rest, like physically sleeping, because our body does require sleep. It's like, you're right, goes into that REM state. It's going to organize the thoughts and the new things that you've learned that day, trim out the stuff that you don't. And there's actually another piece that it like flushes, your lymph nodes, and like flushes toxins out of your body too, right? Like it is an actual like cleanse component, and getting good sleep and good physical rest is highly important. The other piece I hear from you though is like this, maybe we'll tie emotional and spiritual rest, kind of let them go hand in hand in this conversation. Is like, I hear that there's a little bit of like getting in touch with these emotions that might not come up, as like sounds like a similar sense of a cleanse on that side as well.
Yeah, bang on. Exactly, that's what it is. So, because to me, that's part of it. I think it's important to move yourself emotionally, not necessarily daily, but at least weekly, monthly. I say monthly, but I tend to do it every week, whether I'm conscious of doing it or not, because one of the things in what we do, and the other things that I do with poetry is the exposure to the madness of politics and all these things that I see. So for myself, I need to balance myself and remind myself that there's still a lot of good going on in the world. So I'll watch a lot of videos or read a lot of articles, or try to have conversations with people that facilitate that. And I love to watch things that around random acts of kindness, or things that people are doing that just spotlights how great they are. It always moves me to tears. Or I'm still a huge sports guy. I'm not talking about the politics or the business of sports, just the purity of sports. Competition is really good, right? With a lot of people fear competition, but without competition, actually, we're not sitting here where we are today. But that's another show.
That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show. But
actually, we're gonna write that on our show topics.
Yeah, you should.
Keep going.
But what was I saying? What was I saying?
It was something great about cleansing and.
Yeah, so I love to watch videos or read things or talk with people that do remind me of the good of life, and that and highlighting people's brilliance, or even when people don't think they can do something and they do it, and how it moves other people. So that always moves me emotionally. It always has. Or watching, like I said, great sporting moments and that sort of thing. So for me, that's part of my rest, because within that containment, I am regenerating myself. I'm purging out emotions that I may no longer need from that week, from that day. So that goes towards my rest. That goes towards rejuvenation of my spirit, of my emotions, of my mental state of mind. So I think it's important to not just think of rest from a physical standpoint, but to understand it and engage it also from a spiritual. You know, if you're a man or woman of God, are you resting within God? If you are, you know, if you're a Buddhist or whatever your religious understanding is, are you resting in those things, in that faith as well?
Yeah.
From a mental standpoint, it's not so much I'm trying to control my thoughts. How I rest my thoughts is I just let them be.
Yes, it's the whole sitting by the creek and letting them flow down the creek.
Whatever comes up, comes up. Yeah, sorry.
Just let it be, right? Like it's a guided meditation tactic or mechanism you can use, and I use it as well. It's like imagining the creek there, sitting by it, thought comes up, putting it back on the creek, which allows me to like detach from the story of that thought and just like let that thought be. And it's just like it's actually really like refreshing, and it's a resting tactic to go, I don't have to chase every one of these.
No.
Like a dog chasing a squirrel. Oh, I could just let this be, and
Squirrel.
No squirrels. Be like, oh, there's the squirrels. We're gonna let them go play today. This is great, and that too is an opportunity to rest. Another thing I heard from when you were talking about feeling the different emotions as well is there can be, I'm looking down at the wheel of life, or the feeling wheel from the Gottman Institute here on my desk, and it's just like when I hear you talking about being in one prevalent emotional state for a long time, that can actually be tiring.
Yes.
And finding a way to switch the perspective and choosing to be like, hey, if you're in, mad, how do I get to powerful? Can I go explore joyful? And like giving your body a moment to rest from being in any one of those other emotions for a long time. It's like being in a static hold, or like regardless of the emotion that you're in, if you're in it too long, be like, you're going to get emotionally tired, and going and exploring those other ones is actually a chance to rest because you experience them in a different way in that emotional physique of ours. So actually switching out of them and switching to them and back them can be a component of emotional rest too.
Well, I think so, and I think what you're saying is about being balanced with our emotions. Because, I mean, if I sat here and just watched random acts of kindness for 24 hours a day, that's also not very healthy.
No.
Right? Because I can end up with a false sense of emotional an emotional crutch to something that serves a purpose, but if you do it without balance, can be detrimental as well. It's just like, water. We need water to live, right? But too much water could actually drown you.
Yeah.
Right. So this is why, everything in balance, and the same thing with rest, and rest is very important. And to me, it's not just even getting the rest; is how do you come out of rest, right? I was talking to someone this morning about how she was feeling this morning. She goes, "Oh, I'm all right." And I said she was feeling a little off, and she goes, "Well, it's usually common when I get up in the morning." And for a lot of people, because it takes a while for the body, for spirit to fully come back in the body and to be present here. And so I asked, "Do you practice gratitude?" Because I find how you come out of rest as well is kind of a compass to how you will use that renewed energy. Right. So if you come out of rest, you're rested, but you're still coming out in almost in a negative state of mind. to me, that almost defeats the purpose as well. So I think it's very important how you go into rest, but also how you come out of rest as well.
What I see here as the imagery that pops up for me as you talk about that, like coming into rest is like landing a plane. The smoother you can get that plane to come back down, the better everybody is, and they're going to clap inside and be like, woohoo, we did it. But same thing with that takeoff. If you're in a jetliner, it's not going to go climbing straight up. And if you are, that's really taxing the engines,
Well, if you
right?
got
So
the
it's like,
flaps
how do
on,
you want to take off, and how do you want to come back in from those cycles?
because we
Both
got
the rest and being in an active state of whatever your word is for the opposite side, doing, being, experiencing, all those things is like, how do you lift into those actually has a big role of how you experience both that side and the rest.
it does, and you know, and if going into rest or coming out of rest is painful, I'm using that word very loosely, then you know a lot of times you'll tend to want to avoid it.
Yeah.
Right. So you know, this is why, you know, when people have problems sleeping, they try not to fall. They struggle with going to sleep because they know they're going to struggle with sleeping and toss and turn. And nobody likes, you know, it's a very uncomfortable feeling to just lay there knowing you want to sleep, but then all you're doing is tossing and turning. So I think it's important to be cognitive. And again, too, that comes with that time and experience and just being cognitive of where you are in your journey and where you are in the present moment. You know, use the word active. I mean, whether we're, you know, in a rest mode or not, we're still always active. Right? This is always on. This is when people say, you know, you need to turn your brain out, check your ego out, you know, stop the thoughts. Nonsense. This is always on.
Right? This is part of our body. This is part of the system.
Well, without this, the body doesn't exist. So this is always on. So it's a matter of knowing that, but it's within that on state, you can still idle down. And how you choose to idle down and to become more conscious of it. Going back to the example you used about, well, I'll rest when I'm dead. It's usually a statement that from someone is in the early stages of their lives, right? Yeah. And you death is like a long way off and blah, blah, blah. And you got all the time in the world. So, yeah. And I think the earlier you can understand balance with all things, right? You stand a chance to live this differently, right? To live the mundane of life differently, to embrace the repetitiveness of life, right? Because everything we do is repetitive, even rest.
Well, it's all comes back down to a cycle, right? Like this is the rest is a component of receiving and acknowledging it. Bob Berg's why did I just forget the Go Giver series has basically a cycle of like where you're giving credible value and talks about how to like turn that into business, but the last one's always receiving. And I have associated or explored within myself now that when I was really bad at receiving, guess what else I was really bad at? Turning off and resting. And as I've learned to, I guess, mature emotionally and spiritually around the power of being peaceful within and still being when it's time to be ambitious, we go be ambitious, baby. And when it's time to be at rest, we ambitiously get into rest now, right? Like, and it's a lot more caring, and it's a place where now I openly look forward to rest, and I look for the little opportunities like we talked about emotionally, but mentally as well, as like catching when I'm in my default mode network for this thing where it's just running itself. It's like catch it, put a thought back on the stream. It's just like, okay, we're back being conscious here. We're back in the control room making our choices. Making that choice has a cycle. So if we can appreciate the start and the end of all these things, all life is a start and an end. Start our day, end our day. You know, start the breath, end the breath. It's like all those things are required, because what would happen if we just breathed in? We'd eventually pass out because the other part is exhaling.
We're not designed that way, but you know, it's like to me, every morning I wake up, I am born again, and every time I close my eyes, I die, because I don't know if I'm going to wake up that morning or the next morning. So I look at it that way. It's a birth and recycle every day, birth and recycle every day, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. And I think it's important to truly, you know, I think it's important to truly embrace the stages of life that you're in, because, you know, yeah, I used to put in, 80-hour weeks and walk around like it was a badge of honor that I didn't eat all day and these types of things. But I was also younger,
Yeah.
right? And I did have the energy to support that lifestyle. I did.
For a time.
For a time. Exactly, for a time. Did it hinder me emotionally, physically, mentally? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so, because I embrace all of the experiences that I go through.
Well, you do now.
Having said that now.
Yeah.
Right? But rest is the same thing for me. There are times I'm going to get really good rest, and there's times I'm not going to get really good rest. When I don't get really good rest, it's to try to understand why not. And even when I do get good rest, why? What did I do? So all experiences are of value, and it is what experience do you want to try to craft the most? That's in your control, right? I don't have control over the majority of thoughts that show up, right? But I do have control of what thoughts I put into the world. I don't have control a lot of times. Am I going to precisely fall asleep at 1 o'clock? No. But I know myself that when I was younger, I needed to be so tired that when I hit the pillow, I would pass out.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I was younger, again, I always said this is always on. But when I went to bed, I paid attention to the rhetoric that was going on in here that hindered my sleep.
Yeah.
Once I've really gotten right with myself internally, I lay down, and within 5-10 minutes, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
This is still going.
Okay.
It's still just as crazy and chaotic as ever. I just have learned I don't have to pay attention to it. Just let it be. Like the example you use down by the river, sitting and just, the meditative state of just being. When I'm at the river, my attitude is like, my mental show is like a drive, going to a drive-in. That the fishers go to a drive-in and go, our plane is Rawle's brain. Let's see what's on. Because I'm not paying attention. I'm just a projector. You guys pay attention. That's the kind of mentality. It's the same thing with sleep. So I just think, a lot of times it is part of rest as well is removing beating yourself up, the guilt, the shame, whatever you want to associate with it, and going, okay, let me understand. If I know rest is important, I know sleep is important, but I'm not getting the sleep. Because a lot of people sleep, but are they getting the real deep rest that they need? Right? And to me, there are two different things. Then it's
I think that's a place is like where we talk about like that physical and spiritual and emotional rest is like your body may be at rest is like, but what is it in that spiritual and emotional side that you need some work on that fitness, right? Like I love the concept of like emotional fitness instead of like emotional well-being, and
right.
That works for me. It might not work for somebody else, and that's cool too.
Yeah,
but like,
cool,
what work do I need to put in and get really good at? What places of self-awareness do I need to be? All right, I may never be great at this, but I probably need to be good to get to where I need to go next with my rest or with my, with whatever next state I'm going to be in.
Yeah.
And with that choice, but rest being the one where the more I've practiced being aware of it, the more I'm actually training my subconscious, because it's like a supercomputer.
Yep.
And we tell it what is good, what is bad, and what. I think it's even more simpler than good or bad. It's like, what do we want to do in these situations? And if at every night we go to lay down going, I can't sleep, it's going, oh hey, got you, yeah, we don't sleep.
Yeah.
I'll keep us running. Don't worry. The projector is going to be on. The the blasting sound will be there the entire time, versus going, it's okay to sleep.
And this is why
I must sleep, and I want to sleep, and it's just like this self training of like breaking the old programming and adding in a new program and getting used to it and figuring it out and getting it efficient, because eventually then you're going to be able to be in a state where you're like,
Yeah.
When I hit the pillow, this is a safe space, and we know that I sleep. Speaking to my body,
This
and
is
it
why I
goes
think it.
boom.
This is why I think it's important that everything is balanced to the best of your ability. We all know physical activity, goes towards having a good rest as well, right? Once the body is worked, right, and is stressed. That's when you go to the gym, you're stressing your muscles.
Yeah.
So stress in balance is a good thing as well. So it's understanding that, but also understanding who you really are. By my nature, I'm lazy by nature. I am.
Yeah, that must
I
be
am
why we get
lazy by
along so
nature.
well.
So for me to want to just get up and go for a run or whatever, no, I don't want to do that. But I do know the importance of moving. The body is meant to move.
Yeah.
So, I think it's important that you go for a walk, or at least try to go for a walk and do things, or do things more physically at home. I think it's important to really understand yourself and what you will do and what you will not do. Because a lot of times, like joining a gym, a lot of people really don't want to join a gym, but they do it because they think they have to do it, and then the membership sits on it sits on an elliptical in your basement, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at it and go, yeah, I have a gym membership, and you tell everyone I have a gym membership, but you don't go to the gym. So I think it's important to really understand who you are, but also understand what are the things that you can do that you will do because you say this is important to you. And I think that's the ultimate thing. If you say it's important to you, then what will you do to support that state? When I lay down, going to your example of how this is always on, when I lay down, if I feel that this is still always on, I take that opportunity I use it as a moment of gratitude and practice gratitude right there. This is wanting to go crazy and act wild. Why? Right? Because it's like a spoiled little child that's having a tantrum. Right? Why are you having a tantrum? Right? So in those moments, that's when I practice. That's why I said gratitude and rest go hand in hand, or gratitude and how you come out of rest go hand in hand. So I use those moments to show my mental and the spirituality knows, but the mental and the emotional capacity of me, that you're okay to just be.
Yes.
Right? You're okay to just run rampant. I am not paying attention to you, not because I don't love you, it's because I don't need to pay attention to you right now. I am going to go to rest. You know what I'm saying? I am going to rest now. You will follow my lead.
I'm the captain.
I'm the captain now. And I find for me, when I do that, it works. Right? I sleep really well most times. It's a constant practice. I sleep really well now. Like I said, I really have nights where I don't sleep. Having said that, last week I had 2 nights where I didn't fall asleep till like 4:00 in the morning. And it was not like I had anything on my mind or anything like that. I just didn't feel like sleeping at that time. So I remember I went to bed and I'm like, okay, no, I'm not really ready to rest because I'm just laying here. And if I continue laying here, I'm just going to toss it in here. So I got up and put on a movie or something. And then I went to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of it is just being aware of who you are and where you are and where you are within your day and how you're feeling and all these things. The things that we talk about in coaching is part of rest is really being aware of who you are and where you are and what kind of rest do you really need. Yeah. And then crafting that. Because ultimately you're the captain of the ship, right?
Well, it's your choice.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this a choice? Like you say about working out, it's like, I don't want to in that moment, but like, damn, do I feel good 5 minutes in? Same thing with this rest. It's like, I might not, there might be a resistance to it, but like, you know what, I'm going to feel good 5 minutes in. And like taking that step of making the plunge and going, this is what I'm going to start to craft. I might not be good at it on day one. In fact, you won't be good at it on day one. And being like, I can give myself a little bit of a pat on the shoulder for getting to day one. Day two, a little bit better. And all of a sudden, down the road, within a few months, your ability to rest and that on-ramp and off-ramp to rest and on-ramp and off-ramp to active, all of a sudden starts to get real smooth and practiced. And you're like, wow, look, now what am I accomplishing?
Yeah.
Now, how am I focusing on things? Now, how do I give me and everything else that I'm involved in that space?
Yeah. And I think, for me, when I think back, so I invite people, whether you are working, for someone else, you're working for yourself in your home, or whether you're working for an organization, but you work from home, whatever your work arrangement is, every day you should take a number of breaks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe adopt some of the European practice of a siesta in the afternoon. I think it's very important
I love it. 25
to have a
minute,
little
30-minute
nap.
nap.
Even if just to power down, I'm not talking lunch, not a half hour for lunch. And here in North America, we're so backwards, I think, when it comes to stuff like that. This thing about you have to grind 8 hours, 12 hours a day, and you get an hour for lunch, and screw that. I think it's important to grind, but it's just as important to make sure you build into your schedule every day rest,
Mm-hmm.
where you physically shut down, even if it's just for a half hour nap. In the mornings, to go for a walk before you start your day, or even if you start your day and get 2 hours into it, stop, go for a walk.
Yeah.
A walk, 10, 15 minutes, walk around the block. Or step out onto your porch, take some sun in.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if it's raining, take the weather in. Stop to look at the birds flying around. Take in your environment, what you're doing. Do it again in the afternoon. It's like eating. The way we eat is not very healthy. The way you're supposed to eat is actually small little packages of food throughout the course of the day. You should be eating like what they say, like 6 meals a day, and a meal is like the size of your fist. This is why, you're more or less like grazing the whole day. Yeah. Right? It's the same thing with rest. Are you taking periods of rest throughout the whole day, or are you just trying to lump it all in sleep? So I think it's very important that you build it into your daily schedule.
Yeah.
To maximize your effectiveness and your efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
100%.
What was the comment that I just saw from Neil?
Oh, we were talking about going and looking at something in the backyard, and he says there's rabbits in his backyard. So
he's got rabbits. We have rabbits around here, but they come out at night, which is weird because the coyotes are at night. But then again, But yeah, Neil, we'll come and pet the rabbits. That's a good part of rest, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and is like, what can you do to be excited about it?
Mm-hmm.
What you're like? Well, it's like my little cup here is like, where are we gonna go explore and rest today?
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So it's an interesting topic. Is a topic everyone will say they know, but how much time do you actually spend on thinking about your rest, thinking about your sleep, thinking about what else you are incorporating within your rest cycles? Mm-hmm. Do you have rest cycles? Are you creating them throughout the course of your day? I think it's important. I mean, I think if you're going to pump that kind of energy and grinding, then it's just as important to keep refreshing yourself every day and not just try to save it for once a week or try to save it for, after work and then I'll go hit the gym. But, are you also resting throughout the course of the day? Just like, are you eating properly? And I'm speaking from experience because, there was times I would, like I said, many times than not, I would not eat all day, and then I'd want to eat late at night, and then I'd want to eat like this amount.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering why you're putting weight on. And people don't realize one of the biggest contributors to adding weight on is a lack of sleep,
mm-hmm.
a lack of proper resting, because your body needs to rest to fuel about the food that you've consumed that day. So it needs to power down to do that. If you're not sleeping properly, then the body can't function the way it's designed to function.
Our good friend cortisol just keeps building and building, and it does add to all that, right? Like,
so it's not so much maybe put the donut down. Maybe it's pull up a pillow and get some sleep if you want to rest, if you want to lose some weight, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want to put donuts down. Oh, donuts.
Deliciousness. What's your favorite wild tangent here? What's your favorite donut, Rawle?
Oh, French curlers.
Ooh.
Or curlers, yeah.
I like that.
I could eat Well, I say that like I've never have. I've sat and ate a box of 12 from Tim Hortons. I've eaten a dozen at one sitting.
Like
Talk about
nonstop, just
really
like
taking care of your body. Oh, I eating one is just almost impossible, especially when there's multiples there.
you can't just have one. Just
I
like
can't just,
Mark Messier used to say in the chip commercial.
yeah, they're lazy. You can't just have one. So it's, so that's easily my favorite donut. What about
Oh,
you? What's your favorite donut?
Serene says hers is the maple long john.
That's a good one
That's a
too.
good one. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hi,
that's a pretty
Serene.
decent one. For me, you know what? I, I like the sprinkle donuts and the apple fritters. Like
I
the
like apple
child in
fruit.
me
Yeah.
loves a good sprinkle donut, and there's just something about a good like fresh apple fritter that is just like that smacks all the time for me.
Well, I'm not big on Timmy's anymore, but I still think they make the best apple fritters. Although three is it 360 Bakehouse?
I was about to say we had those apple fritters down
Yeah,
there, and
they're pretty good.
they were pretty damn good.
Those of you watching the show, that's a it's a cafe uh,
In
restaurant
Kelowna
in
on
Kelowna
Bernard.
on Bernard, and
Yeah.
they're famous for their donuts, and they have a maple bacon donut with actual bacon on top of it. It's like, yes,
They have like quite the
yes.
selection of donuts. While Rawle
So,
lived in town, we made a few stops at that place.
well, while Raw lived in town, he made a few stops without Gene.
Rawle.
I used to cheat on you and go there with a lot of different people, so I just have donuts. Well, you are special. I just need to spread the specialness with other people. So,
Serene also says old fashioned and fritters.
oh,
Yeah.
Serene, I love you. I love you. I was going to say that, and then I went off on this tangent. I still love an old fashioned, nothing on it donut.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say I have a favorite, although I did say French. I just love donuts.
Yeah.
Although I'm not a big custard guy, so I don't like anything with custard in it. But
You're not a
donuts
Boston cream
itself.
guy.
Hmm?
Not a Boston cream guy.
No, not. I've never. I guess because as a kid, my mom used to make custard in and like for dessert, just like Jello.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
hated it. So I tried eating custard as an adult, and I had a donut that was filled with custard, and I bit into it just to say, okay, I'm going to try it now because when I was a kid then, this is different. I'm older now.
Yeah.
No, wasn't feeling it. So,
Not for you. That's
so those are
right.
the donuts I stay away from. But all kidding aside, to me that's all part of rest when you're doing things like that makes you feel good, and you add it to your repertoire of recharging, right?
There's like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's a delicacy within it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's you can step into the deliciousness
Yes.
of your favorite donut. Like it doesn't always have to be. Again, we talk about balance. It isn't always the healthy food. Sometimes you gotta go have the donut and enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you putting in all the work if you don't get to have a little bit of like momentary
Yeah.
happiness from eating the donut? Now, don't sit around and eat the donuts all the time, but also don't sit around and just like work yourself to the bone with all the good stuff too, right?
But you see,
You gotta experience it all.
I removed the good and bad. Donuts are not good or bad. We do that. Well, this food is healthy. This food
Yeah,
is no. They're all good food. The question is, are you balanced with it? Sitting around like I used to
moderation
and,
is
and
king.
eating 12 curlers in one sitting is not healthy.
No, God, no.
So we'll blame the donut for that. It's not the donut's fault. That's my fault. There's no.
The donut wasn't marching up to your mouth going,
Yes.
open up.
It's just like we were now vilified in sugar and people, sugar-free diets and all this. No, sugar is not bad. It's how we use it, right? Even white sugar, I will argue. You could sit there and say it's evil. Why is it evil? Because we used to use sugar, probably still do, as a filler in everything. This is why I think we have problems with gluten and all this stuff, because we use things coming down to money. Well, that's another show. But to me, everything in balance. I'm not going to have a French curler donut every day. I think if you have it once a week, maybe twice a week, that's fine. But every day and 12 in one sitting, that's not healthy.
That's not it. Neil wants to know how much coffee you had to consume to eat all those 12 donuts.
Well, probably coffee is interesting because I don't drink coffee like I used to, but I used to drink coffee like all day long, right? I could drink coffee right up till I go to bed. I never drank coffee as a pick me up. I just like the taste.
Yeah.
So, I'll start off with my regular cup of coffee, and if I was going to eat donuts like that, it's not like I would need to have like three cups of coffee. It's just one. But for me, I drink coffee all day long as well. I don't drink it as much as I do. I've kind of incorporated tea again back into my repertoire. But again, it's like finding the balance. So drinking coffee all day long, yeah, I know I was out of balance with it. Yeah. But then again, I tend to drink coffee Monday to Friday, and I don't drink on the weekend.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't bother me. I don't get the shakes like some people say, oh, I can't. No. Right? So I drink it because I just like the taste. So again, I try to find the balance. Right? If I'm going to drink coffee all day long during the week, I'm not going to drink on the weekend. So to me, it's just about balance with everything. And, this is why, if I was to sit around and sleep 12 hours a day, that is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if I'm doing it during the day and neglecting other things to do. So it's about balance with everything that you do in your life. So this is why, to me, donuts are not bad food. No, they're just food. You balance with it. Yeah. That's the thing. So,
and we've gone all the way from rest to emotional fitness into donuts. What a show. You just never know what you're going to get on the Rawle Gene
never
Show.
Know.
Hell, we never know what we're going to get.
Well, because we don't know what the heck we're talking about half the time, or what we will talk about, more importantly. We don't know what we'll be talking about, and we don't know what we're talking about half the time. You choose to listen to us or not. But I will say this. Rest is like anything else. It's like in the 7 Habits, they'll talk about the emotional bank account, which operates like any bank account. Whatever you deposit in is what you'll be able to withdraw.
Yeah.
If you deposit crap in, you will get crap out. It's that simple. Yeah. If you are not resting yourself and you're depositing bad rest, and you're not truly taking care of yourself in all the aspects of your life, why would you then expect to be able to withdraw something positive from it? Mm-hmm. Right? So just think of it as your emotional bank account, or your rest account. What am I depositing in my rest account every day, every week, every month? Right? And obviously every month it's not just about sleep. It's like, what are you doing on a grander scale to represent rest? And maybe rest, when we think of rest, we think of sleeping, but I use the word recharging and rejuvenation and that sort of thing. So what are you doing to rejuvenate? And again, the 7 Habits, sharpening the saw. How are you keeping your saw sharp?
Yeah.
Emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, right? What are you doing?
Yeah. I love it, my friend.
So, well, all right. It is now 2:44.
It's time. Do you have a piece you want to share? I went first last time, so this is...
I don't want to go first.
You don't want to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, you go first.
I'm just being a spoiler brat.
Oh,
all right, I am going to go first. I have a piece that I'm going to share called, what's it called? What's my piece? Sound of Silence. Sorry, Sound of Stillness, Sound of Silence. I don't want Paul or Art calling me up going, hey, you stole our title. It's called The Sound of Stillness. Let me just make this bigger because my old eyes are old. All right. Standing before the rippling dark waters, immersed in memory. Softly, dark gray clouds drift ahead, illuminated by the moon. Within this silence, my heartbeats echoed through the valley of my shadows. My mind perched on a branch of uncertain, amidst this absence of clarity. An owl's hoot mimics a stoic gospel, evoking visions of bygones. Meanwhile, a gallery of shooting stars navigates the night's playground above as the phenomenon of the moment is captured by her radiance, appearing to suspend time itself. As the clouds hover, they seductively urge they seductively urge the release of thoughts. My imagination holds up a mirror, reflecting the hope of seasons past. And like a nurtured field of growing minds, the night moon spotlights the potential within. I stand knee-deep in the waters of redemption as my sweat purifies the forthcoming harvest. At this moment, I am baptized by a faith steeped with wisdom. With heavy eyes, I rest upon a bed of lucid feelings, inspired by the earth beneath my hands. The waters have healed my false illusion of suffering, whilst the moon's fire bears witness. My heart beats with another solstice morning, embracing the splendor of the winter's embrace. End of piece. I don't think I read that very well, but that'll do for now.
That'll do, Rawle. That'll do. It's a wonderful piece.
Thank you.
Some really good moments in there. The branch of uncertainty really stuck. And great use of the word lucid, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I guess that's my turn. So I'm actually finished my notebook, which is great.
Celebration.
So this is an area that I'm working on internally and trying to expose through different forms of writing. So we're going to give this one a go. This is called, so far, Peace and Ambition. Peace and ambition. By other names, it may be stop and start. And seemingly unending game of tug of war, or tug of rope, moving the flag to one side than the other. They both are pulling for a victory they dare not share with the other. Ambition was strong, then weak, then strong again, always on the hunt for the next win. Peace was an experience defined from some time in the future. It was a foreigner in the land, speaking a tongue unknown. Pulling as they might, peace let go of the rope, letting ambitions think they won the game. In its celebration, peace whispered, "I will see you soon, my friend." Ambition had a lesson to learn, and peace released it, trusting in the process. Tattered and torn, ambition rallied on until it met peace again. Battled and broken, peace knew the lesson had to be taught and asked, "What did you learn?" Ambition stared at peace, fresh, open, and present, and in disbelief of itself, the answer it gave. "I can't do this alone. Look what I've done." "What could we do together?" it asked. "Who could he be? Come," they asked in unison as they turned towards me. Peace and ambition put the rope away and chose to walk together, starting today.
That's really good.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Hey, Serene, what do you think? He doesn't think he's a poet, so.
She said, "Peace, yes."
Yeah, that's a really good play of using peace and ambition to balance. Right. Yeah, I'm so glad you've accepted this writing and the challenge of writing, and you finish your first book, grab another one, and keep going. I really do think you should do something with these poems, and I think you should definitely attend. I have an open mic on the 19th, Wednesday the 19th.
Well, maybe. I'm back from holidays, so next week, well, starting here shortly, we head off as a family vacation. So we may or may not be on the air next Friday, depending on where we're at on our vacation. But if we are, we'll definitely be around.
But I'm enjoying listening to your witnessing your growth as a writer, stepping into poetry, because you've stepped into it, you've accepted the challenge, but more importantly, you've stepped into it, and it is definitely showing in your writing and your phrasing and the wording, and And I like to think you are enjoying it as well. So
Well, yeah, yes, and thank you to Serene for supporting us as we are going along. And yes, I will keep writing, and we're going to encourage Raul to keep sharing all of his goodness as well. I think what we can learn from these types of challenges is the importance of communication. And just as we talked about rest and emotional switching, the balance is like going through and playing with all these other forms of communication actually add on to that skill set.
yeah,
But that can be a conversation for
yeah.
another day.
Well, we have a lot of conversation or idea for a show for another day. Um, yeah, wherever you are next week, and depending on obviously if you guys are on vacation and your family's up, we can do the show. I mean, I'm already in Toronto, you're in Kelowna, so wherever you are, depending
Yeah.
on connection and so forth,
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure that out because I think next week's show we'll definitely talk. I know Serene and some others are interested in the me I don't see experience, and I think Gina and I touched on it before. We revamped it, and we revamped it by not playing small.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we were offering a workshop, and then we were going to try to position a mastermind group. And we both realized we were playing small because one of the things that I always try to do is not that a workshop doesn't have its value, but to me, one thing, particularly when you're talking about self-empowerment and self-growth and self-mastery and all these things, there's a process to it. And workshops tend to be more an event.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a one and done experience.
One and done experience or two and done experience. And you get excited when you're doing it. And that excitement may last for a few days afterwards, but then everything gets shelved. And so this is why, we thought it was important, number one, let's acknowledge what we're doing. We were playing small. Number two, we want to make this a process. So this is why I said next week's show, I really, that more than likely that's going to be the topic we're going to talk on. And
we want to talk
explain,
about scarcity.
Yeah, and explain our process and the fears we were playing with, and then how we've gotten to where we are now with what we want to do, and invite you into the process. I'm tired of hearing people talk about transparency and accountability and all this nonsense. You got to practice it as well. And I want people to understand why we the approach we took initially and why it seems like we've maybe detoured in a different direction. We haven't detoured. We're just actually paying attention, not just to you, in asking you, when's the best time to do these things, but we're paying attention to ourselves because, again, remember, we're human as well, and we do have fears, and sometimes we don't realize that we can allow our fears to cloud our judgment. So I think it's important when we talk about transparency is that you truly are transparent and go, hey, this is where we were, this is where we are now.
Yeah.
And this is where we're going. Exactly. So,
well, I think it's, and we'll get into it next time, but it's about how do we want to serve. And then for us, the lead into the next show is talking about how we kind of use the workshop and those forums as a way to like be really safe and put a big pillow instead of saying, hey, this is what we're doing. Right.
Yeah.
How my hope for anybody that's listening and watching today is that you ask yourself, what is it that I want to do?
Yeah.
Take a big, bold step to do it.
Yeah. And one of the reasons we created this show was to share coaching tips, but also to share, where we are and what we're doing and how we're doing it and what blocks we have as well. One of the best ways to coach is to be coached or to learn from your experiences is to teach. So, if you think you've really gotten something, then try to teach it, and then try to teach it like you're teaching it to like a 12-year-old child, and see if you can be concise and creative in how you explain what it is that you're trying to explain. So, to me, everything is linked, and this is why I enjoy this doing this show with you.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about workshops and mastermind groups that all take care of itself, but to me, this is a vehicle. This is the foundation for us saying, hey, we're just two guys who have a passion for working and helping people maximize their potential within their lives. Yeah. This is how we choose to do it. This is what we do based on our experience and our education and so forth. And we don't always get it right in that spectrum of right and wrong or good or bad. We don't always get it right. And when we don't, we're going to be honest about it. And it's not like we didn't do something right or wrong. We thought we were following a certain ideology or path and realized, no, that doesn't serve us. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that with you next week. So,
all right, brother. Well, until next week, thank you to everybody who's watched the Rawle Gene Show. We appreciate you very much. You are loved and you are heard. So we will talk to you.
You are
next.
loved and loved.
Loved and loved.
You are loved and loved.
We're still working on how to end this show. So, anyways, now we're going to get to the legal speak. We'll talk to you all next week. Oh, one last thing. It's the legal language. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals.